Chapter 73.1. The commotion at Gulrak's house was not a big issue. It might have been different if Johann was a suspicious wanderer from afar, but he had the support of powerful families behind him. In fact, the influential people of the city even apologized. The incident was concluded as an act of excessive loyalty by the followers of Emperor. Johann praised the bravery of the mercenaries, distributed silver coins, and the city nobles seized the opportunity to attack the nobles of the Emperor faction. "Sir, it would be best for you to leave quickly." "Yes, I agree." Not only Suitk, but also Marco spoke up, indicating the city's atmosphere was unusual. There was no reason for Abner or the Jarpen family to get involved in the city's power struggles and tarnish their own flags by doing favors for others. The group quickly prepared and left the city. Although some tried to persuade them to stay longer, Johann decisively refused. "Lost in thought, I see. What's on your mind?" "I was thinking about Sinerna." "Charmed by her looks?" "She is quite beautiful." Suitk stroked his beard as he spoke. A wizard studies and manipulates mysteries, eventually gaining stronger persuasive power in speech and voice. Among wizards, some excel in this, possessing the ability to captivate souls with their beautiful appearance and sweet voice. If they have a good soul, they become great advisors; if not, they manipulate others for their own gain, becoming ordinary wizards. And Sinerna was typically the latter. "No." Thinking back, "Didn't you try to kill her?" "No. I was wondering what trick that wizard might be up to." "Again with that sound?" "Don't worry, it's fine. A wizard's oath isn't as simple as you think. To repay the kindness of being saved by granting 3 requests doesn't just mean fulfilling the requests. It also means that she cannot harm you." Right now, she must be agonizing over how to phrase her words, her head probably aching. "What do you think she will say?" "How would I know? If she doesn't want to lose her magic, she'll have to figure it out herself." This whole situation must be quite bothersome for Sinerna, trying to twist the events in a way that doesn't harm Johann. But for Suitk, it was a matter of little concern. Sinerna, being resourceful, will surely handle it well. "Sir." From a distance, Marco returned from his scouting mission. He had gone out as an advance scout with a few mercenaries. Such scouting was essential the farther they were from the city. Before the main force moved, it was necessary to identify any danger so that those following could be prepared. "There are mercenaries on the road." "Here too?" "They seem like no big deal. We can probably just pass by." Marco cautiously offered his opinion. In fact, among the group, Marco and the knights were in the most precarious position. Unlike the others, they were captured prisoners. So even voicing a simple opinion required careful consideration. Johann wasn't arrogant, but it still wasn't easy to speak up in his position. If the Sir says so, then that's what we'll do. We'll continue straight ahead. "Yes." Marco's face brightened. As Marco said, the mercenaries were unremarkable. They looked dirty and unhappy from staying outside for a long time. They glanced at Johann's party, disappointed they weren't an easy target. "Watch your eyes. If you look again, it'll pierce them." The mercenaries hired by Johann shouted fiercely. Being mercenaries themselves, they knew what the others were thinking. These kinds of people, like animals, needed to be shown who was in charge. "We were wrong. Sir Knight. Well, move aside, please forgive us. We were wrong." The mercenaries slowly moved aside. Johann's party proceeded through the tense air. "The situation in the south isn't good. How can we live in peace like this? It's the same everywhere in the Empire, isn't it? It doesn't seem like where the Emperor is would be the same." Suitk displayed a look of dissatisfaction as if displeased that only the Emperor's fiefdom remained intact while other places got embroiled in the flames of war. After all, isn't this entire political situation in the Empire due to the greed of the Emperor and his family? The mercenaries had disappeared, but people kept appearing on the roadside, from travelers burdened with luggage to merchants, not just mercenaries. At first, it seemed like they were fleeing from the fighting, but they were too numerous for that. What's going on? Chapter 73.2. My lord, I've committed no crime. I received permission from the priest to go on a pilgrimage. Calm down. I'm not blaming you. Marco soothed the traveler. On a journey, not only rogues and monsters were formidable enemies, but knights were also not to be underestimated. Even a regular knight, not a rogue one, was a frightening adversary for travelers. Being mistaken for a runaway serf or slave could lead to a lot of trouble. Why are so many people gathered on the road? Well, some crazy mercenaries have occupied the bridge. That's what everyone's been discussing, about what to do. To cross the river ahead, they needed to cross the bridge, which was currently occupied by mercenaries who wouldn't let anyone pass. The weather was cold, and the water too chilled, and the river was not shallow enough to swim across. With so many of you here, why don't you pool your money and pay them a toll? The mercenaries refuse. They're completely mad. Voices of agreement erupted from all around. Although tolls were usually paid to the local lord, there was a rule even among rogues to let people pass for a certain fee. But these rogues, perhaps having eaten something wrong, were refusing money and stubbornly occupying the bridge, causing much frustration for travelers. We outnumber them, let's attack at nightfall. There are mercenaries guarding those merchants over there. Don't talk nonsense. Did you see how many mercenaries were on that bridge? We wouldn't stand a chance. Now that Sir Knight is here, maybe he can resolve this? Why don't you talk to him? Are you crazy? This guy is looking for trouble. The murmuring crowd parted as Johann made way. Dozens of well-armed men with flags approached, and the crowd split, creating a path. They held their breath and bowed their heads as Johann and his party passed. What are these madmen doing on the bridge? Let's just sweep them away. Johann fell into thought at Stephen's words. Attacking without knowing who the opponent was wasn't Johann's style, even if it was something a knight would do. Shouldn't they know who they're fighting against first? Sir, if you permit, I'll go and fight first. No. Let's find out who we're dealing with first. To Johann, it wasn't the situation but the opponent that mattered. Even in a humiliating situation, one shouldn't fight against a stronger opponent. Suetlig nodded as if he had thought well. In this regard, Johann was really agreeable. Listen. We are an embassy from the Jarpen and Abner families. What kind of people are you to dare block the bridge and obstruct the path of good people? Marco shouted valiantly. At his cry, the mercenaries on the wide stone bridge reacted abruptly. The names of the Jarpen and Abner families were well known enough for the experienced mercenaries. Even the mercenaries who had rudely told the travelers to get lost were cautious around nobility, hurrying over to respond. We are the county mercenary group. Watch your mouth, scoundrel. Remember who stands before you and choose your words wisely. At Marcos' words, the three mercenaries who had run over twitched their faces. Being noble didn't mean they couldn't get angry. But they quickly assessed the situation and bowed their heads. Sorry, Sir Knight. We deal with rough stuff. This head of mine doesn't always listen well. Please forgive us generously. Please forgive us. Johann, who was listening from behind, asked. Do you know the county mercenary group? They're quite famous. A mercenary group that numbers in the hundreds and survives several years inevitably becomes famous. There weren't many that made it that far. An experienced mercenary Khan cautiously asked. May I say something? Of course. And feel free to speak your mind anytime. Thank you. The leader of the county mercenary group is a bit peculiar. Has nicknamed the Prophet. Suetlig also showed curiosity. A mere mercenary having the nickname of a prophet. Prophecy was among the most difficult and complex fields of magic, not something just anyone could do. That's not to say he can prophesize like Wizard Nim. Khan, embarrassed, stuttered. It's just that Marit himself is so uncanny in his work, he got the nickname of a prophet. Avoiding dangerous assignments, participating in profitable battles, and evading formidable enemies. After doing such things a few times, a mercenary leader naturally earns a nickname. This also builds trust among mercenaries. Although the life of mercenaries was marked by sword and blood, they tended to be superstitious. In this regard, the leader of the county mercenary group more than qualified as a leader. Are we going to fight? If they don't clear the way, we might have to. For Johann, waiting or turning back was easy, but now he was carrying several flags and names. Yielding to mere mercenaries would be too great a loss. If we catch the leader, give me a chance to ask him some questions. Don't worry. I was planning to ask as well. Captain! Captain! What's the commotion? A man adorned with ornaments on his arms and neck frowned as he stepped out of the tent. He was Marit, the leader of the county mercenary group. I told you to block the bridge, why are you crossing? Do you miss the taste of the whip? It's not that. The nobles have come. Nobles? Marit was taken aback, so much that his stern voice faltered. It was a problem on a different level than mere travelers. What should we do? Shall we give way? Marit struck the cheek of the mercenary who spoke. Don't talk nonsense. Go and block them by any means. Persuade, coax, or threaten. How can we threaten them? If they try to pass, tell them even if they are nobles, we will fight. Just make some excuse, you fools. Say we're following the orders of a noble whose name we cannot reveal. Just make them back off. Marit fiddled nervously with a ring on his finger. He had a bad feeling about the dream he had last night. Marit believed in the prophecy, which had never been wrong before. Wait. Isn't that Sinurna? You must be joking. Oh. Suitlik was also surprised. Among the mercenaries on the bridge, there was a red-haired wizard. Looks like they hired her. She's quite skilled. With such abilities, it wouldn't be difficult. But why is she tied up? Johann and Suitlik were agape. Sinurna was captured as a prisoner. Is that woman really the wizard Sinurna? Even wizards are human. Wait, why am I defending Sinurna? They checked again in disbelief. No matter how many times they looked, Sinurna was indeed captured. The mercenaries were circling around, shouting things like, Chapter 74. The atmosphere was so menacing it felt like someone could be killed at any moment. Johann immediately drew his sword. Thinking of saving her? Is there a better way? No. It's a good idea. Suitlik nodded. It was a good idea to save her. It was customary for a wizard to return a favor. Only, it was Johann who had tried to kill Sinurna 3 times just recently. Gerdulf, follow me. Without waiting for a response, Johann spurred his horse. Gerdulf, without asking, drew his weapon and followed Johann. Traditionally, a wizard was a profession that received respect and courtesy from others. However, when things went awry, the wizard was often the first to be bound and sacrificed. Just like now. Dealing with magic inevitably invited fear. Nothing was more frightening than what one could not understand. Such rotten luck. Sinurna thought this, sighing. There was a saying, but who would have thought it would apply to themselves? Looking at the current situation, it seemed advising the emperor was out of the question, taking care of oneself was priority. An uncertain misfortune, with no clear starting point. Losing the knight brought along was tolerable. She could leave the city with a few servants and slaves. The preparations were a bit naive given the dire circumstances, but Sinurna had a plan. The idea was to discreetly join a nearby trading caravan. With Sinurna's abilities, winning the merchant's favor was more than possible. The problem was encountering crazed mercenaries spouting things like, and. There were fanatics in the world, so devoted that not even a needle could penetrate their belief. The mercenaries Sinurna met were of this sort. Sinurna knew that mercenaries were superstitious, but not to this extent. Their ears were so closed that not even Sinurna's powerful words could penetrate. I said I am not a witch. Don't lie, witch. The merchant said they saw you using magic. That was pure magic, not evil sorcery. I am an advisor to the emperor, a court wizard. Cover your ears. This witch is trying to bewitch us. Block it. The captain said to cover our ears. There are times in life when one is trapped in a dilemma. Sinurna intuitively knew this was one of those moments. A wizard, even in desperate situations, did not resort to meaningless struggle. Give me a chance, and I will prove I am a wizard. Ha! As if we'd believe that. You're going to execute me anyway, right? Throw me into the fire. Then, he'll show you magic. Some of the mercenaries seemed intrigued by these confident words. No. The captain said to throw the witch into water. Indeed, anticipating witchcraft, he said that. But how can a witch play tricks if thrown into fire? Don't know. Maybe escape. Then isn't it the same with water? Go tell that to the captain. Throw the witch into water. Throw the witch into water. Sinurna looked up at the sky, sighing. If she survived this, she vowed to burn that captain. From the other side of the bridge, two knights rushed forward at full speed. The mercenaries screamed and threw themselves out of the way. Normally, those who should have blocked the way, but if they were loyal enough to throw themselves in front of charging knights, they wouldn't be working as mercenaries. What are you doing, you fuck? Idiot! They are nobles. Honorable ones. Even though the mercenaries almost got hit by the horses, they couldn't curse and just glanced around. Johann looked at the mercenaries and spoke. What's the difference between a wizard and a witch? Do we really need to ask that question now? Even while bound, Sinurna spoke out of disbelief. There really wasn't much difference between a wizard and a witch. A wizard that needed to be hung for being evil was simply called a witch. With such limited knowledge, the mercenaries couldn't respond. Isn't she a witch since she uses magic and crossed the bridge? The leader said she's a witch. How do you prove someone is a witch? If you throw them under the bridge and they float, doesn't that make them a witch? And if they sink? Then she's not a witch. Who? Chillingly logical. Realizing that Johann was toying with the mercenaries, Sinurna opened her mouth. Wouldn't you help me since you're here? You prayed for a future filled with pain and glory for myself, but it seems your future is also full of pain and glory. Sinurna's face reddened slightly at Johann's mockery. Normally, such petty taunts wouldn't shake her, but the situation was different now. A situation truly embarrassing for a wizard. Sorry, but that person is not a witch. A wizard, albeit a bit sloppy, which is odd, but still a wizard. A noble guaranteed by the emperor himself. Despite Johann's words, the mercenaries were not easily swayed. Once they believed something, they stuck to it. In the mercenaries' eyes, Johann looked like a knight bewitched by a witch. When the mercenaries blocked the way and refused to move, Johann chuckled. Are you refusing to listen? Right now, Sir Knight, you're under a witch spell. So it is. The mercenaries were taken aback when Johann agreed so easily. What did he mean? They soon found out. Gerdolf charged and punched the jaw of a mercenary standing in front, knocking him down instantly. He was quite burly, but upon taking a direct hit from Gerdolf's fist, he collapsed. What? Johann strode forward and grabbed the collar of a nearby mercenary, then threw him. He threw him effortlessly, not exerting much strength, yet the mercenary flew over the bridge and splashed into the river. A terrifying display of strength. The mercenaries couldn't even muster the courage to draw their weapons, stunned. Will you move aside? But the witch. Right. Don't move aside. Ag. Another mercenary flew off the bridge. Those watching from behind were astonished by the bizarre scene. Mercenaries flew over the bridge like birds and started splashing into the river. Ooh. Ugh. Though they weren't tied up and could swim, the river was cold. The mercenaries trembled and desperately swam towards the shore. If you want to draw your weapons, go ahead. Johann said so, but the mercenaries dared not. They knew. Johann and Gerdolf were deliberately not drawing their weapons. If this fight turned bloody, they would be the ones at a loss. The mercenaries looked into Johann's eyes. His steady gaze held the power of a strong spirit. Facing his gaze, the mercenaries involuntarily succumbed to a sense of defeat, losing their will to fight. Slowly but surely. Eventually, the mercenaries surrounding Sinurna stepped aside. Johann had subdued the mercenaries on the bridge without swinging his sword even once. Johann stood in front of the fallen Sinurna. Sinurna, saying nothing, looked up at Johann. A strong will to not lose her dignity as a wizard was evident. There's no need to mock a weak opponent. Johann reached out his hand to Sinurna. When Gerdolf tried to lash out at Sinurna, Johann, alarmed, grabbed his arm. Why do you do this? This wizard is not an enemy. Ah. I am sorry. Sinurna breathed a sigh of relief. She felt unlucky to be involved with this knight, Johann. I'm sorry about this. Get up. I am grateful for your kindness. Gerdolf. Take this wizard and protect her well. Don't lay a hand on her. Yes. I will remember that. I will not hit. Even if she looks suspicious, don't throw her into the river. Yes. I will not throw her. And yes. Don't whip her. Yes. I will not whip her. Sinurna took Johann's hand. She spoke in a tired and earnest voice, devoid of any leisure. I would be grateful if you just let me walk on my own feet. Mercenaries may be reluctant to confront nobles, but that doesn't mean they just say yes, yes, and do nothing when faced with a noble. A good example was when a noble arrogantly tried to enter the mercenaries' encampment without permission. They kept silent when blocking the bridge, as it could be excused for a band of rogues, but uninvited visits to the encampment were a different matter. In terms of principle and custom, the mercenaries held the upper hand. Even nobles risked being killed by sword if they tried to enter forcibly. After all, not all of the nearly 100 mercenaries were fools. That's why Marit thought he was still dreaming when he heard that a knight was outside his tent. Who did you say is here? What do you mean by that? Sir Knight is waiting outside. And what did you guys do? Motherfucking idiots. Marit abruptly stood up. Could it be that despite there being at least dozens of mercenaries awake, no one stopped the knight from coming here? It was so unbelievable that it felt unreal. It's not like the mercenaries collectively turned foolish, nor did the knight use magic. Suddenly, remembering the prophecy, fear surged through him. To think that this would happen even though he acted according to the prophecy. Could this situation be what the prophecy warned about? Bring me my sword and armor. Slaves hurriedly brought the armor and sword. Marit, with a stern face, pushed open the tent's door and stepped out. Indeed, there was a knight waiting. Standing proudly on his horse, gazing this way. The surrounding mercenaries were just staring blankly, as if this knight was the leader of their mercenary band. Marit felt a chill as those who should naturally try to stop him stood aside, making way as if acknowledging the knight. The dominance he had built over the years leading the mercenaries. It seemed as if the knight had snatched away that dominance just by riding and walking over here. Are you the leader of the mercenaries? Yes, I am. It was natural for Johann to think so. Marit was excessively adorned for a mercenary leader. Even for a knight, isn't it too much to enter the mercenary land so arrogantly? To Marit's protest, Johann nodded. Yes. You are right. He'll give you a chance for revenge. Will you fight? Marit realized he had underestimated the opposing knight. A typical knight would never offer a chance for revenge against mercenaries. They would oppress and insult, but why would they do such a thing against mercenaries? That was exactly what Marit had counted on. If Johann insulted the leader in front of the mercenaries, even those who stepped aside as if mesmerized would be enraged. The mercenary leader is the face and pride of the group. Insulting the leader was akin to insulting all the mercenaries. The mercenaries were selfish and self-centered sons of bitches, but even sons of bitches have their own pride. However, Johann was giving him an opportunity as a warrior, rather than insult or persecution. Oh. Captain. Accept it. When else will you get to face a knight like this? As expected, cheers erupted among the mercenaries. They were admiring Johann's generosity and magnanimity. The opponent was a knight who came alone to the heart of the enemy and generously offered an opportunity. Marit sensed it. If he avoided this offer, he would be a coward. Marit subtly evaded the proposal and asked, I must first hear why you, a knight, are here. What brings you here? I came because I heard that some wicked people were blocking the bridge. Alone? Why, did you expect me to bring my soldiers? Marit flinched at Johann's words. There was confidence in Johann's voice. It was clear that he led an elite force. Johann looked around at the mercenaries and said, I could have brought my soldiers, but that would not have been respectful to the warriors here. Right? Laughter full of agreement erupted. Johann was capturing the mercenaries with every word and gesture, masterfully and to his own surprise. It's hard to say, but I have a request from a noble person. We are not rogues. You might have heard of our mercenary group. I'm not sure. Prove it. Johann didn't give his opponent a chance to escape or play any tricks. He planned to seize the dazed Marit and finish the job. Prove it. If you're not a coward. The cheers grew louder. Marit, as if mesmerized, reached for his weapon. Chapter 75. Johann thought to himself. Although Johann had instigated such a situation, it wasn't entirely unsurprising. After all, the opponent had little choice. Johann dismounted his horse and drew his sword, intending to defeat anyone he faced without underestimating them. However, the opponent did not move. Standing still, the veins near Marit's eyes became distinct and darkened. The mercenary leader, drooling, began to speak with a trembling hand. It was a chilling voice, deep and powerful, vastly different from before. At this voice, the mercenaries yelled out with a different emotion than before. If the previous cheers were of respect for a brave knight, now they were of fear towards an incomprehensible mystery. The leader prophesies. Everyone shut up. The leader is prophesying. Marit continued to pour out prophecies towards Johann. Johann listened to Marit's prophecy with an amused expression, not believing a word. Suetlik had advised that prophecies are often wrong and inaccurate, and Johann, by nature, was far from such blind faith. Aren't these just forced, possibly wrong predictions? If Johann had been an ordinary knight, he might have panicked at the thought of facing the Emperor's forces. However, Johann asked without flinching. Such prophecies I can make too. Is that all? Is that all? Tell me more. Can't you see what will happen to your own neck? Johann took a step forward. Then something strange happened. A black, ghost-like figure began to appear behind Marit. Despite this unusual phenomenon of a black ghost appearing behind someone in broad daylight, the surrounding mercenaries showed no reaction. Johann realized that he was the only one who could see this ghost. And your neck? So, your neck? With each question, Johann stepped closer. With each step, the black ghost became darker and more violently agitated, as if it feared Johann. A strong spirit dominates the mystical. Johann's unshakable soul shook his opponent. Finally, Johann stood before Marit. Now, what do you think will happen to your neck? Johann struck Marit's face. Marit flew sideways. Johann spoke fiercely. How dare someone who can foresee their own future prophesy? Better worry about saving your own neck. Who are you? Come out and face me. Instead of answering, Johann repeatedly struck Marit's face. Blood splattered, and his mouth was shut. Without being able to open his mouth, even if he tried to prophesy, there was no way. Eventually, it was the black ghost that surrendered. Johann was unfazed by dozens of prophecies, but the ghost could no longer endure. Above Marit, a black mass billowed and bloomed. Only now visible, the mercenaries screamed in alarm. My God! What is that? It's a malevolent spirit. A malevolent spirit. Johann caught the malevolent spirit. Not with a silver-plated sword or blessed ashwood, but with his bare hands. However, the strong power of Johann's soul enabled him to grasp the malevolent spirit with his bare hands. Once caught, Johann's formidable strength was unleashed. Johann exerted all his strength to crush the malevolent spirit. As his grip intensified, the malevolent spirit screamed silently. My name is Valkalma. Valkalma! Spare me, Sir Knight! As a humble spirit, I will serve you. The true names of all things mysterious and bizarre were the source of their power. The moment the true name was revealed, the entity became subservient. Unable to withstand it and revealing its true name, the form of the malevolent spirit vanished as if melted by light. And Johann deeply realized from within his soul that he had subdued this malevolent spirit. It's getting too late. Crossing the bridge with mercenaries, Suetig looked at the camp with a subtle expression. Although Johann's confidence as a knight was understandable, Suetig was a wizard. To a wizard, bravery and foolhardiness were not much different. Who would compensate for the bravery if an unlucky arrow flew in and cut off the breath? Sir Gerdulf. It seems we must go to aid Sir Johann, but entering with soldiers might cause misunderstanding. Can you manage if it's just you and me? Even if the opposition had a fierce formation with raised spears, Gerdulf would have agreed. Gerdulf nodded without hesitation. Then let's go. Move aside. I need to see your leader. Suetlig and Gerdulf spurred their horses towards the main gate of the fiefdom. As the two charged alone, the mercenaries, unable to stop them, stepped aside in confusion. It didn't seem like an attack, and the fact that they had already been allowed to pass once played a big part. After passing the main gate, it was easier inside. The mercenaries were nowhere to be seen, perhaps due to some commotion within. Reaching the center of the fiefdom easily, Suetlig was startled by the sight in the distance. Johann was grappling with a malevolent spirit with both hands, trying to tear it apart. It was unclear how one ended up wrestling with a malevolent spirit barehanded in broad daylight, but it had to be stopped. Entities like spirits and malevolent spirits should not be recklessly confronted by non-wizards. Even well-prepared wizards sometimes failed to subdue them and got devoured, let alone someone who wasn't a wizard. Suetlig frantically searched for blessed holy water and elixirs. But it was unnecessary. The form of the malevolent spirit had disappeared. It was unbelievable, but there was only one reason: Johann had subdued it. Suetlug made the sign of the cross, something he hadn't done in a long time. God, if you were to show a miracle, it would have been enough to show it in my youth. Suetlug first checked Johann's hand. Fortunately, it was intact without a single wound. The situation was more serious for Marit, who had been beaten badly. Marit was gasping for breath, spewing foam. Wizard Nim. My lord's condition is a bit. Give this potion to your master. He will be fine soon. Thank you. Although outsiders were using the leader's tent as they pleased, no mercenary dared to speak up about it. They had just seen Johann subdue a malevolent spirit. Suetlug listened in as much detail as possible to what had happened to Johann. It was unbelievable, but Suetlug tried his best to believe it. What did I subdue? A malevolent spirit. Normally, it's impossible to subdue it like that. It seemed the mercenary leader was called a prophet for a reason. With a malevolent spirit dwelling in him, it must have appeared to the mercenaries as if he was making prophecies. Can a malevolent spirit make prophecies? Anyone can prophesize. But a malevolent spirit never gives a proper prophecy. It leads people to ruin with malicious mockery and pranks. This mercenary leader was quite successful, wasn't he? It was just his luck. Among many prophecies, those of the malevolent spirit were particularly poor in quality. Initially granting glory, but soon dragging one into a quagmire. That was the nature of its prophecies. The best way was to simply ignore them. Ignoring them, be it spirits or malevolent spirits, they couldn't interfere. Suetlug noticed that Johann was not at all swayed by the opponent's prophecy. The strength must have frightened and shaken the malevolent spirit. At first, only I could see them, and not the mercenaries. Why is that? Perhaps it's because you've faced many evil things. Like the Death Knight. Living in close proximity to mystery makes one closer to it. Johann, who had subdued a Death Knight, found it not strange to see a malevolent spirit dwelling in someone. So, how does it feel to have used magic? I asked, how does it feel to have used magic? Is this magic? But last time. Suetlug nodded. To wield magic, one needs to be interested in and understand the mystery. But there were always exceptions. Right. It requires complicated procedures and processes. You have to be interested in the mystery. But sometimes, even someone who knows nothing can perform magic with innate talent and instinct alone. Like a gravedigger who has lived near a tomb for a long time, casting exorcism spells with chants learned from ancestors, or a shepherd wandering all their life, predicting the future just by looking at the stars. What you showed is similar. Taming the malevolent spirit with the power of voice and soul, that's magic. Well, if you think about it, I subdued it with strength. Well, anyway. Johann summoned Valkalma from his soul. A small black shadow flickered on the palm of his hand. Once his true name was revealed and subdued by Johann, Valkalma was no longer a malevolent spirit scheming evil. It had become merely a strand of dark power, stripped of intelligence and voice, and subjugated. There was less Johann could do with Valkalma than he had thought. It was barely stable enough to lift a sheet of paper. Thinking magic is not all that special, aren't you? No need to be surprised. I felt the same at the beginning. Getting into magic is just the start. Isn't that how it is with everything in the world? Gradually, you'll be able to do more. Just keep an interest and explore. I understand. Johann had intended to practice with this power he had acquired at his leisure. Suetlug looked at Johann as if it was nothing new. But to subdue a malevolent spirit with your voice. You might be well suited to be a priest. Traditionally, priests were better at handling such malevolent spirits than wizards. A deeply faithful priest could scare off a malevolent spirit with just his voice. Actually, more with fists than with my voice. If anyone asks, say you subdued it with your voice. That sounds more plausible. Suetlug spoke decisively. Subduing a malevolent spirit with a voice seemed more plausible than with fists. The former sounded like a person full of faith, while the latter seemed more like a brute. As the mercenaries whispered rumors that, Marit woke up. Suetlug, who was beside him, looked at Marit and asked. You must have slept soundly for once, without any nightmares. How? How did you know? Marit, not knowing who Suetlug was, felt overwhelmed by his aura and spoke to him respectfully. Haven't you always had nightmares, seen your own death in the future, and sometimes felt like you were not yourself? No. How did you know? Marit was startled. There was a mysterious aura about Suitlug, making Marit certain that Suitlug was a wizard. Wizard Nim, please help me. No matter how much I follow the prophecy, the shadow of death does not leave me. Do you wish to escape the unfortunate prophecy? Yes. Then do not believe in the prophecy. That will allow you to escape it. That's such nonsensical talk. Only then did Marit notice Johann beside him. Johann, with his large build, sat up and asked Marit, "Are you hurt?" Yes. Marit took out a bronze mirror and looked at his face. It was swollen and in a mess. I tried to control my strength, but the malevolent spirit was so strong that I couldn't help it. Sorry about that. It was a lie. Even if the malevolent spirit had been weak, he would have hit hard. Suitlug consoled the confused Marit and explained what had happened. The revelations that it was not divine revelation or blessing that had given him prophesies, but a malevolent spirit, and how he had narrowly escaped death due to good fortune. Then, that malevolent spirit. A devout knight here banished it with a prayer. Be thankful. It wasn't something just anyone could do. I have received a favor so great I could never repay it in a lifetime. Sir Knight, thank you. Even Marit, who was not a wizard, knew how remarkable it was to vanquish a malevolent spirit. He bowed down in front of Johann. Chapter 76.1. Suitlug soothed Marit with a familiar expression. As a wizard who had lived a long life, Suitlug had often received such gratitude. Johann was a knight, but it was good to watch once if he was going to handle magic in the future. To handle magic means to receive both fear and respect from others. Even a wizard like Sinurna could be thrown into the water if unlucky. What about an inept wizard? A wizard must know how to soothe and captivate their opponent. Rise. Your body might not have fully recovered yet. Now that I think about it, my body feels heavy and my head aches. Yes. It's because the malevolent spirit has left. But you are young and healthy, so you will recover soon. Grateful for Suitlug's words, Marit repeatedly expressed his thanks. Suitlug gave him a few more pieces of advice. Do not wear unnecessary ornaments, do not fall for anyone's temptation, and drink salt water in a silver cup with the moon reflected in it every fortnight. Listening, Johann became curious and quietly asked, "What is that, the last thing? Is it some kind of magic?" Nothing really. But it eases the mind. That man looks rough but is very fearful and superstitious. Doing this will calm his mind so he won't fall for suspicious whispers. Suitlug's words were true. After all, Marit was moved as if he had heard some great secret. He immediately called the mercenaries to lift the blockade on the bridge and treated Johann with great respect. It was as if a commoner was serving a knight. Sinurna would know more about summoning spirits or malevolent spirits than I do. Sinurna sighed tiredly at Suitlug's words. You think it's too much to ask me to reveal my magical visions to someone else? Don't beat around the bush. I'm a wizard too. Sinurna's words might have worked in the emperor's court, but this was a mercenary tent. Moreover, the ones present were Johann and Suitlug. Her words were least effective on them. And I'm not asking you to teach me your vision. Just a few simple pieces of advice. If it's about exorcising a malevolent spirit, a priest might be a better choice. I could write you a recommendation if you want. If it was about exorcism, I would have sought a priest. But this knight needs a method to control them. Sinurna wondered why Suitlug was doing this. A knight, not a wizard, what difference would a few pieces of advice make in controlling a spirit? It could even be more dangerous if done rashly. Was he trying to endanger Johann? But Suitlug hadn't given any sign of that. Then was it for his own curiosity? No, the philosopher of the Ipel River had no interest in spirits or malevolent spirits. If he had, he wouldn't have been beloved by the river. It's probably useless even if you listen. It is useful. I've subdued a malevolent spirit. Sinurna was truly surprised at Johann's quiet comment. This knight subdued a malevolent spirit? Not exorcism. Exorcism could be done by non-wizards with some luck, but subduing a spirit was a different level. How did he do it? Suitlug smiled wryly. It was always pleasing to see a wizard like Sinurna curious. Curious? Yes, I am. We answered your question sincerely. Don't forget that. Sinurna was annoyed by Suitlig, who even made debts in such situations, but she couldn't help it. She was genuinely curious. Sinurna nodded. This knight subdued the spirit with a strong voice and the power of his soul. Indeed. A natural talent. Others might have scoffed, but they were wizards. Sinurna understood immediately. Moreover, the strength of Johan's soul was impressive. She had never seen such a soul even in the Emperor's court. And also violence. Violence? Nothing. Just a joke. Now, will you give the advice? Sinurna ran her fingers through her red hair and let out a languid sigh. Just the two of us. Without that wizard. As you wish. Suitlig, having no real interest, quickly left. Sinurna pondered where to start. She murmured an indecipherable spell in a low voice, and flames sprang from her hand, splitting into several streams and decorating the inside of the tent. Surprisingly, the fire did not burn the items in the tent. Do you realize what I have just done? Did you command a spirit? As Sinurna chanted a spell, a wave of power emanated from deep within her. Johan's perception of the mystical had grown stronger since subjugating the malevolent spirit Valkalma. Yes. I have made a pact with this spirit. I cannot tell you the method. It's complex and not something that can be shared with others. I'm not curious about that. Now, for Johan to contract with a spirit using complex spells and magic circles, it would take ages. He just wanted to skillfully control whatever he caught. I pay the price and make a request, and the spirit fulfills it for a fee. There are things a spirit cannot do, and sometimes there are things it can do but won't. Spirits are capricious. Equivalent exchange. There was little difference between spirits and malevolent spirits. Although a spirit becomes a malevolent spirit when it is nasty and evil, from a human perspective, spirits often felt malevolent too. The key for Johan was to understand what the spirit could do and pay the price for it. In cases like Johan's, where one discovers and subjugates the true name of a malevolent spirit, one could be said to have absolute control. However, this didn't mean tasks could be ordered without any cost. Then? Since it was subdued within the soul, the energy of the soul must be paid as a price. Handling a spirit beyond one's capabilities could result in spitting blood and collapsing. However, for a strong knight like Johan, he could easily recover with just a little rest. You will have to understand for yourself what the malevolent spirit can do. But don't forget one thing, always remember that what you're controlling is a spirit. Wizards who became arrogant from controlling spirits always met their downfall. They deluded themselves into thinking they were masters of the spirits. Arrogance was a word too distant for Johan. Valkalma. Chapter 76.2. Johan summoned the malevolent spirit and directed it towards the tip of his dagger. The blade of the dagger turned as black as a moonless night sky. Sinurna watched with interest. Johan's skill in handling the malevolent spirit was quite impressive. The spirit seemed to be following him properly. I've been thinking about cursing weapons like this. What do you think? It doesn't seem bad. A malevolent spirit would be skilled in curses. But is it right for a knight? Seems like a dishonorable act. Of course, I was just asking. I have no intention of using it in battle. Johan quickly covered up. Sinurna, unaware of Johan's true nature like Suitlig, nodded with a so-be-it expression. Did you say you're going to the territory of Duke Brudu? Marit asked with a tone of surprise. The territory of Duke Brudu in the southeast of the empire was so vast and powerful that it was called a duchy. However, that did not mean it was a peaceful land. From the east, fierce barbarians raced across the plains to attack. From the south, heretics from another empire were constantly watching for opportunities, and nearby minor kingdoms plotted conspiracies to expand their influence. The eastern part of the empire was known as a rough land of opportunity, even among mercenaries. Yes. Why do you ask? Sir Knight, we were just returning from the east. Marit and the county mercenary group happened to be returning from a mission in the east. How was it? The East? Always the same. Monsters are terrible, people are tough, barbarians are fierce. Oh, I once saw Duke from a distance. He was a remarkably handsome man. Duke Brudu, now middle-aged, was renowned as a great leader. In the troublesome eastern part, his name held absolute authority. Many serfs prayed in his name. What about the people? Sir Knight, how would someone like me know that? I only met the steward briefly. But he seemed like a fine man. Why is that? Because he paid the wages on time and generously. This was expected, but many nobles failed to do so. Wage delays were common in mercenary employment, and mercenaries often compensated for these delays through looting and post-war rewards. It wasn't for no reason that mercenaries were restless. Good to hear he's not stingy. Are you going to meet the Duke, Sir Knight? Indeed. Marit was amazed at Johann's words. He thought Johann was exceptional, but actually going to meet Duke Brudu? Why did you return from the east? The winter was cold, and the mercenaries were discontent. Staying longer in the east seemed like it might lead to a real rebellion. And also the prophecy Ahum. Hearing this, Johann got a sense of what the east was like. He nodded. Before Johann left, Marit spoke earnestly. Sir Knight, I may be a humble mercenary, but I understand what gratitude is. If you ever need my assistance, please do not hesitate to call upon me. I will risk my life to come to your aid. Don't take the risk of your life lightly. It devalues it. But I'll remember your words. I won't forget your honor. Yes. As Johann's party left, the sub-captains approached Marit. Couldn't you have followed that Sir Knight, Captain? He seemed to come from a good family. Mercenaries were superstitious, Marit no less so. To them, Johann was like a revelation. A knight who alone invaded a mercenary camp and banished a malevolent spirit. To the mercenaries, unaware of the true situation, it seemed almost like a revelation. As if following the prophecies of Marit, they desired to follow Johann. He's heading east. Who? Whom? The sub-captains were appalled. Not just their subordinates, but they themselves detested the east. After finally returning to the empire, they wanted to rest until spring warmed the weather. No need to worry. He'll be back soon. Captain! Are you making a new prophecy? Although Johann was not an eastern noble, nor were Jarpen or Abner, the mercenaries misunderstood it as Marit making a prophecy. The malevolent spirit was gone, but the mercenaries still believed Marit to be a prophet. None refused when offered a convenient lie. Marit nodded. Exactly. Oh. What else has come forth? Joining at that time will bring great fortune. As expected. I thought so. The sub-captains accepted without doubt. People tend to believe what they want to hear. Marit looked at his subordinates. He felt both pity and disdain, reminiscent of his own past self, once deceived by a malevolent spirit. Seeing this, he felt he could lead the mercenaries for many more years. Farewell. And take care. After the party left, Sinurna also prepared to depart. She left with just a few slaves. Why's that? It seemed oddly meaningful for a farewell. You're getting better at understanding the undertones. Yes, there was a deeper meaning. As you know, I am a wizard. I trust old sayings. Do you know it? I do. Sinurna is a great wizard, but she has faced misfortune twice. No matter how great, one can't avoid the tide of bad luck. It wouldn't be surprising if it happened a third time. Ah, but surely. Johann chuckled. That mercenary band was truly an unavoidable misfortune, but surely such an incident wouldn't happen again. Days later, Johann spotted a familiar figure fleeing on horseback, enveloped in a cloud of dust. Sinurna was being chased by a band of rogues. Prepare for battle, charge! Chapter 77.1. The soldiers immediately drew their weapons without hesitation at Johann's command, a testament to their training. The orderly momentum of the army was easily recognizable from afar. The spectacle of the troops quickly aligning side by side made their pursuers stop in their tracks. Any sensible rogue would not engage with dozens of well-armed warriors. The band of rogues slowly retreated. Shall we pursue them? No, it's fine. Johann restrained Marco. While they could win the fight, he did not want to waste time battling in such a place. Johann and Suetig seemed as incredulous as Sinurna about the situation. She rode her horse slowly towards them and stopped in front. Really bad luck today, isn't it? Despite Suetig's call, there was no response. Sinurna's face seemed devoid of energy. Johann spoke up. Should I offer some consolation? No need. A viper dies if it eats anything other than poison. Don't bother with pointless comfort. Suetignim, even vipers eat normal snake food. People in this world often had limited information. They were unaware or misinformed about things outside their knowledge. Johann once seriously heard someone say, "Really? I didn't know that. Anyway, don't offer empty comfort to that wizard. It might sound like mockery. If it sounds like mockery, it's because of their twisted disposition, not mine." Suitlik was slightly impressed. Johann was not usually eloquent, but occasionally he had the ability to strike sharply like an arrow. Sinurna would have bristled if she had heard this. When Johann approached to console her, Sinurna surprisingly did not get angry. Instead, she showed a different reaction. "Is it okay if I join you for a while?" Johann openly showed his displeasure. Noticing this, Sinurna raised her eyebrows. She was an advisor to the emperor and a renowned wizard, yet he was openly wary. Il asked Suitlignim. "Wait a minute. My reputation rivals that of the philosopher of the Ipel River, and I hold the position of a court wizard." It was pitiful for a wizard to boast about their own fame, but sometimes it was necessary. Of course, to Johann, it was nothing more than a moment. "So what am I supposed to do with that?" Never mind. It's bound to be worrisome." "What are you talking about?" "Misfortune, that's what. Wizards believe in omens. If one experiences misfortune thrice and fails to recognize any sign, they don't deserve the title of a wizard. A true wizard ought to hear the voice of fate in such signs." Sinurna, skilled in prophecy, might have heard something in this misfortune. Like a voice saying? That sounds trivial when you put it that way. It's not exactly a direct voice, but more like a revelation. Honestly, if I were in her shoes, having faced thrice misfortune, I'd do anything. I haven't experienced it myself, but Sinurna, having gone through it, might see things differently. "So, is it all right to accompany us?" "Why ask me? It's for you to decide. Aren't you worried she might poison your drink?" "Ah. That's what you meant. As I said before, no need to worry about that. Haven't you saved her life multiple times?" The wizard's debt to Johann was several times more significant and weighty than he imagined. And besides, accompanying her would be beneficial given your skills. "But she's the emperor's wizard. Saving her might be seen as a noble act by you, a knight, but accompanying her is different. Remember, others might misunderstand. People like the Jarpen, the Abner family, or the soldiers might misconstrue. To those not wizards, a wizard can seem far more suspicious than one would think." "It doesn't matter." "Oh? Are you sure?" "Yes. Those with us won't be swayed by such." Johann trusted his companions and the image he had shown them. Their faith wasn't so weak as to waver just because he was accompanying the emperor's wizard. Johann's expectation was correct. Even with Sinurna joining, the mercenaries and his family members weren't overly surprised. Marco was more shocked than anyone. "Is it all right for the emperor's wizard to join us?" So Johann must have his reasons. "But she's the emperor's wizard. Aren't you a knight of the emperor?" At a loss for words, Marco fell silent. Sinurna asked Marco, "Aren't you the illegitimate son of Marquis Crucho? You're still alive." "Yes. How is the Marquis? How can he be well?" Having strongly advocated for a military action that led to defeat, even a Marquis couldn't be unaffected, especially since he couldn't even face the emperor and was in seclusion. Marco's face darkened. "So, why are you here?" "I'm serving with my sword to raise a ransom." Sinurna nodded. It wasn't unusual for knights. Chapter 77.2. If I get to return later, please tell him I'm sorry. For what? For my part in the defeat. Sinurna laughed softly. The Marquis probably doesn't even remember you? Don't look like that. It's not meant as an insult. But honestly, Marquis Crucho isn't someone who would remember you. Have you ever wondered why you were the only one captured while the other knights fled? To stand up to the crisis of the lord I serve as a knight is. Right. It's an honor, a privilege, and a duty. No need to say it again. Sinurna waved her hand as if she already knew. But if the other knights fled and you alone were captured, that would be strange. I won't say more. But remember, Marquis Crucho is not someone worthy of such loyalty. It was always a pleasure to tell the truth to a young knight. It was like playing with a newly strung puppet. Sinurna enjoyed manipulating people according to her own interests. Just then, Johann called her from a distance. Although she had traveled with Johann for a few days, he was hard to figure out. It was rare for Sinurna, who had the power to see through people. Sinurna. Good timing. Why did you call me? Could you light this fire? For a moment, Sinurna thought Johann had called her to insult her. However, there was no particular intent on Johann's face. Suitlug, sitting beside him, said, I misspoke. My apologies. I said a wizard's flame is more powerful and mystical than ordinary fire. He got curious hearing that. I can predict the future, but... Never mind that. Just light the fire. Johann, with his armor off and dagger in hand, preferred doing things himself, unless it was urgent, even though it could be a slave's job. Sinurna lit the fire with a very subtle expression. Oh. Impressive. Sinurna and Suitlug exchanged glances. And was their silent exchange. Then you may go. Sinurna left. As she did, Suitlug cautiously started. Well, I did tell you to do as you please, but... Don't be too harsh. I wasn't planning on killing. It's not just about being kind or murderous. There are many attitudes in between. Johann wondered why there was discontent. Despite being an emperor's person, Johann never touched Sinurna. He didn't insult her, didn't make her keep watch at night, and treated her as well as he did the nobles in his party, with the best food and drink. Sometimes a wizard can be more hurt by one act of neglect than 100 insults. Just show some interest. Didn't you show interest in my magic when we first met? Yes. You, Suitlugnim, lived in a big Count-Ry and traveled everywhere. Suitlug blushed at Johann's sharp memory. Aren't you interested in Sinurna's magic? I've already received advice on summoning spirits, and am curious about fire magic, but... Great! Call her and ask. I don't want to be close to someone I don't want to be alone with. Isn't that suspicious? There was nothing to say to that. What can you say to suspicions? And indeed, Sinurna was a suspicious person. Her shallow loyalty made Johann's wariness understandable. Suddenly, Karamaf bristled his fur and began to growl. It was past evening, and the surrounding plains were pitch black without a single light. Only the campsite was flickering with light. What's the matter? Be careful for now. Everyone, wake up. Prepare for an attack. Johann awakened the people around him with a voice thundering like thunder. The mercenaries hastily got up at the sudden shout. There was nothing but open plains without a single mountain nearby. Since ambushes were rare in such terrain, the mercenaries were perplexed. What foolish ones would rush through this darkness? Light a fire. Put on your armor. Crossbowmen, rush over. As Sinurna was lighting a fire and returning to the tent, he was amazed. It wasn't the mercenaries' experience that amazed him. Of course, they were experienced, but such soldiers could be seen anywhere. What amazed Sinurna was that they moved without a hint of doubt. In the middle of the night, when the enemies couldn't be heard or seen, the fact that no one doubted and just moved. It meant that Johann had completely taken control of them. Even the experienced mercenaries tended to make their own judgments, but this was something else. Karamaf. Where are they coming from? The wolf turned his head to point in the direction. Johann stared into the darkness as if to glare. He could feel a beast-like murderous intent approaching. Johann drew his bow and pulled an arrow. The bow was bent back as if it would break, and the arrow quivered. Even in the surrounding darkness, the arrowhead was seen to darken. Valkalma! At that moment, responding to Johann's cry, the malevolent spirit cursed the arrow. The shot arrow made a vicious sound as it flew. Not seeing anything but hitting something. Even the shooter, Johann, was surprised. A beast's roar erupted from the darkness. A few experienced mercenaries heard the roar and realized the identity of the opponent. Damn it! Werewolves! Werewolves! Wake up! You fools! Run out if you don't want to die. Damn these eastern plains! What kind of werewolves roam around here? Johann quickly reloaded his arrow. Unlike Johann, the werewolves had very sharp night vision. Realizing that Johann was aiming an arrow, one of the werewolves dashed furiously towards him. Karamaf unleashed his wildness and bit the werewolf's neck. The werewolf swung its claws in rage, but Karamaf had already created a distance. Well done, Karamath. Johann's mace swung, and the sound of a werewolf's head shattering was heard. Chapter 78.1. When facing a monster of medium size or larger, it was common not to engage in close combat. Fighting against a monster with tenacious vitality often resulted in the person collapsing first. Only truly prideful knights would dare confront such monsters. Impressive! Therefore, Sinurna had no choice but to be amazed by Johann's extraordinary strength. Werewolves, being robust and fierce monsters, could normally withstand a knight's attack, but it collapsed as easily as a straw bundle. In fact, Sinurna had never properly seen Johann in battle. She had seen the chaos in Gulrak's warehouse, but that was a frantic melee. The knights were pushed back, but it was a situation where they weren't fully equipped. It could have been considered bad luck for the knights. But now, it seemed natural that the knights were overwhelmed. Even if knights were driven by honor and bravery, they were still human, with fears and rational thoughts. Only a very few would dare to face ferocious werewolves without wearing armor. "Come at me!" The fallen werewolf did not rise again. Werewolves lurking in the darkness did not dare attack upon hearing Johann's shout, instead circling the area. Sinurna felt it was time to demonstrate her worth. With a spell and complex movements in the darkness, the flames around the encampment blazed fiercely, emitting a blinding light. As the light approached, the werewolves fled into the darkness in terror. "Suitignim." "Well done." "It was me." "Oh, really?" "Well done, wizard." "Excellent. Are the crossbowmen ready?" "Fire as soon as you are loaded." The crossbowmen gritted their teeth. The vast eastern lands were home to all kinds of monsters. But encountering werewolves in such plains was unexpected. It was a relief to have Johann by their side, otherwise, they would have been overwhelmed with fear. "Any more advice?" Johann's attitude left Sinurna feeling complex. It was right to acknowledge her abilities as a wizard, but there was an absence of the usual awe or fear one would show, leaving her uncertain whether to be angry or not. It's better to light more fires around and prevent their approach. Have the injured retreat. Werewolf wounds must be treated immediately, or they'll worsen quickly. Also, pair up the soldiers. Understood. Johann called for Gerdolf. Gerdolf. Protect Suitlignim. Sir Marco. Lead the knights and move with Stephen. Protect the people of the Jarpen family. Stephen and the Jarpen family were, apart from their combat abilities, the first to be protected. Having issued his orders, Johann realized he had omitted something. No, Gerdolf. Protect Sinurna Gong. Wait. Sinurna spoke in a hurried voice. She didn't trust Gerdolf, fearing he might turn his weapon on her at any moment. Could I request Sir Marco to escort me? That's a bit. I apologize. It might raise unnecessary suspicions. Marco showed reluctance. Being together with people from the Emperor's faction already invited suspicion. Then stay by my side. But be cautious. I'm not skilled at fighting while protecting someone. Bear that in mind. As the flames in the encampment grew brighter, the werewolves seemed to realize that their ambush had failed. They skulked in the shadows, circling to find an opportune entry point. Each time the light shone, it revealed the werewolves' forms. These bipedal beasts, heads 1 or 2 sizes larger than a human's, sent shivers down the mercenaries' spines. Their claws appeared sharp and thick enough to split a shield in one strike. One, seemingly losing patience, finally lunged. A crossbow bolt fired, burying into its torso. Yet, the werewolf endured, howling. Driven by a desire to repay this pain with blood and flesh, it attacked. Even if the werewolves would fall later, the mercenaries' formation was in immediate danger. Johann chanted the name of a malevolent spirit and hurled his spear. Valkalma! Johann saw clearly how the spear writhed, altering its trajectory to match the werewolf's evasive moves. And the spear pierced the werewolf's chest, unable to withstand Johann's force despite its tough hide and muscles. Move aside! Johann rushed forward and decapitated the werewolf with a single strike. As blood sprayed like a fountain, the morale of the werewolves outside the fiefdom plummeted further. They began to flee, howling like beasts. The mercenaries' cheers followed them, intoxicated with the thrill of battle and Johann's bravery, taunting and cursing the retreating werewolves. Sinurna, taken aback, suddenly realized something. Didn't you say the power of a malevolent spirit isn't to be used in battle? When it's urgent, it can be used. What's the issue? At Johan's response, Sinurna was at a loss for words. What exactly is this knight up to? The mercenaries couldn't sleep until dawn broke. They had been attacked by werewolves in the plains. Anyone who could sleep after that would have been crazy. Only after the break of dawn could the mercenaries rest. It's quite extreme, even for the perilous East, to have werewolves in the plains. The people of the Jarpen family could not hide their surprise. It was that shocking. Sir Johann, if we go further towards the river, we will come across a town. It might be better to rest in the town, even if it's a detour. Sir Knight, someone is coming from the east. Chapter 78.2. Johann, who had been questioning Suitlig and Sinurna about various things regarding the werewolf's body, stepped outside at the mercenaries' call. A group of cavalrymen was approaching. They don't seem like a band of rogues. That's the flag of Duke Bredu. They must be warriors under the Duke. Unlike the west or south, the eastern part of the empire was common with nomadic tribes wandering the vast empty lands. Those who embraced the empire's culture and religion became loyal warriors, while those who refused became formidable enemies. The approaching group was carrying the flag of Duke Bredu, along with another flag with a unique, unfamiliar pattern. They were clearly warriors serving Duke Bredu. Centaurs. Centaurs are indeed a rare sight in the empire. Centaurs, capable of running on full legs from birth and fighting with their arms, always boasted exceptional combat prowess. While other races raised and trained horses, the centaurs themselves were equivalent to cavalry. Johann looked at the centaur warriors with great interest. Sinurna asked, "Doesn't it creep you out? You're a bit creepy up close, but I'm trying not to be, considering what Suitlignim said." "Nothing to worry about." Sinurna was puzzled for a moment, then understood the meaning. Johann was talking about her. I was talking about the centaur warriors. Ah. Sorry about that. Don't take it to heart. When Sinurna fell silent, Johann seemed slightly apologetic and comforted her. I tend to be a bit wary of wizards, that's all. I hope you can understand. Didn't you converse comfortably with Suitlig? The magic I showed yesterday should be enough reason for respect. I demand the same level of respect you show to the philosopher of the Ipel River. When Sinurna's indirect words failed to be understood, she spoke more directly. Johann responded in kind. Well, such excuses won't work, I guess. It's unsettling that you are the Emperor's advisor. Does that make sense? Sinurna was neither angry nor flustered. Being a wizard, she had learned not to be disturbed by such reactions. She tried to probe and shake Johann to persuade him. As a wizard, I don't pledge loyalty to any one person. So, you needn't worry about that. If you don't pledge loyalty to someone, the same applies to me, right? As a court wizard and a guest, I will follow the customary hospitality, but I don't expect more. To earn my respect, one needs corresponding virtues. Johann spoke bluntly. Suitlig suggested that since Sinurna was accompanying them, it was necessary to be a bit more persuasive. Johann was not as stubborn as other knights, and if he wanted to flatter, he could do so at any time. Winning Sinurna's favor, a distinguished wizard, couldn't be a bad thing. However, Johann thought differently. Wizards might be accustomed to such dealings, but not Johann. He saw no reason to cozy up and perform tricks with someone hard to trust in a situation that wasn't even dire. Sinurna understood Johann's point. Approaching a knight who had drawn such a clear line would only backfire. She decided to back off. Did you have a conversation? How was it? Did you get closer? At Suitlig's inquiry, Johann replied with a slightly embarrassed voice. We agreed to keep the promises we made since we want different things. Well, then there's nothing we can do. There were incompatible people. Trying to force them together was usually fruitless. Sinurna seemed to have given up on Johann too. It appeared she thought it better to persuade others than to persist with someone like him, who seemed unyielding. Are you from the Jarpen family? The centaur spoke in a rough empire language. The people of the Jarpen family nodded, holding their banners. We will serve you. This area is dangerous, be careful. Just yesterday, we encountered werewolves. At this, the centaurs looked surprised. The condition of the group was too good for having met a werewolf. There should have been at least a few bodies. What was more surprising was that the werewolves' bodies lay in the camp. Who caught these? I caught 2 of them. No, 3. Sir Knight. There was another one dead outside. As dawn broke, a werewolf, pierced by an arrow in a vital spot, lay dead, unable to escape. The centaur asked Johann, "Are you Johann of the Yates family?" "Yes." "Indeed. My lord has been waiting for you waiting quite a bit." The centaur, not fluent in Empire language, or perhaps due to different concepts, referred to the Duke as the master. This was despite not being a slave. "Gather the bodies. We must show them to my lord." At the centaur warrior's command, the subordinates collected the bodies. It was their custom to show appropriate trophies when returning from a hunt. 3 werewolves would be enough to adorn the reputation of the knight named Johann. "You say waiting, what does that mean?" Johann's question didn't upset the centaur, who readily answered. They respected strong warriors and despised the weak. Johann, having slain 3 werewolves, was worthy of respect. There are knights warriors waiting for an appointment ceremony. They are prominent young warriors from the east, eager to demonstrate their bravery before my lord. I see. So, it's that kind of event. The appointment ceremony was not just about placing a sword on the shoulder and receiving a knight's duties. It was a grand festival and an event to prove the honor and authority of the nobility who supervised it. People flocked from all sides, and knights were given the opportunity to prove their bravery. And such opportunities often involved swords and bloodshed. With such distinguished young warriors from the east present, Johann naturally braced himself. A tournament? Or perhaps something else? Sir Knight is enough. 3 werewolves. Not an easy feat. It was possible with the help of the soldiers. You don't hunt alone. Everyone gets help. With your skills, Sir Knight, it will be remarkable. I want to see. In the centaur warrior's eyes sparkled a mix of competitive spirit and anticipation. Johann nodded. If the opportunity arises on our way, he'll show you. The centaurs cheered and roared with laughter. This knight from the west seemed to be quite hearty.